truck review.
I put them on just for you, buddy.
Yeah, you can hear that's a little more moist.
Yeah. Little.
And at the end, he was saying, about every 30 seconds. I wanted to stop him, but I knew we were near the end.
It might get going. Well,
okay. Either way, the show goes on, right?
Can always go grab the iPad and turn on the fire. Be a little chilly.
Tell him about that little flicker.
Yeah.
Tell him about it.
What flicker?
You're immune to it now. When the lights go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're building the mom's house next door here, and every time they kick on the air compressor, the light just goes. So don't mind that.
Cousin Justice is leading that program, and he's doing a really good job.
He's a professional.
Yeah, he is.
For sure. Yeah, they've been. We're on. It's a Wednesday, so it's been 2 weeks and 3 days.
Yep.
It's not looking good, Tim. And they're putting trusses on right now.
Yeah, they're doing great. It's
and it was on a big hillside, like they had to dig the whole thing out a ways, and yeah, it's impressive.
My first thought was, it's because it's not that far from the range. I was like, oh my word, like this is a literal construction site. Like, what happens when I go to make a video? But
that would be your first thought.
Yeah. Well, because I was thinking if it goes all summer, like this is going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I'll be done by June.
No, but they're literally going to have it walled in like a week or two, and then the noise will be indoors. Like it'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In fact, this I got to check again with cousin, but I'm pretty sure this Sunday I'll probably be digging the trench from the power pole to the structure to run power into it, so they can have their own power, stop using this one, and run all their stuff in there. But they'll probably be doing electrical in a week or two. Imagine plumbers are next and roofers when these framers are done, and I'm betting these framers are probably done, unless they do the sheeting. They might do the sheeting. But if they're the siding, but if they're not doing the siding, they're going to be done sheeting this week.
All the finishing work or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you ever drive by a construction site and think these are people that do real work?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, I've done a ton of remodeling in my life, so I concur. It's
real
work.
Yeah, and I've done some of it, but I just think sometimes, and like, how I get paychecks and how a lot of other people do is like, sometimes we feel like we're working hard. And then I drive by a construction site and it's drizzling or it's 30 or 40 degrees. And I'm like, these are people that do real work.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. These are the people that build America. It's, I don't know. I feel sometimes I drive by and I'm like, golly, like these people deserve more credit.
Oh, 100%. Like everything gets built by a real hardworking person. Everything gets taken care of typically by a real hardworking person.
Yeah.
Whether it's maintenance or repair or, the guys taking your garbage, guys keeping the utilities running. There's the infrastructure of this country is completely governed by hardworking, predominantly male groups, and they get overlooked and underappreciated.
Yeah, no doubt.
You just get used to you turning your switch on and you got light. You're used to going over your water and you turn on your water and you got hot water. I mean, so much of that you overlook what goes into it and have a lack of appreciation for how hard it probably was to get that to you.
Yeah.
At some point.
Pretty special, man. Shout out to the construction workers of the world, the people that build stuff and make things, because they are the heartbeat, I feel, of the heartbeat of a lot of what we see and get to do. In the military also. Shout out to you guys. Our friend, speaking of the military, is coming Friday. You know which friend I'm talking about?
Friend Friday.
Old McNary.
Oh, he's coming Friday this
time? Coming to town, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've got a bow build guy on Friday.
Nice. Well, he's going to come around like Friday afternoon, hang out for a day.
I was just like, my brain was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, are you talking something I didn't know I was doing myself?
Well, as I do a little maintenance on this fire going behind us, tell the people right now, announce which bow you're going to bring to Total Archery Challenge San Antonio.
I have no idea. No, I'm still gonna do 4 or 5 33-ish, 34-ish axle to axle bows to try to determine which one of those I want to use. And I hadn't even set out which ones I was going to do yet, but the Lift 33, the Alpha X 33 for sure. I'm not a big fan of the Bowtech SR, to be honest, and I don't really feel like I should be using an SS 34 because that's last year's bow. I know they still make it, so I might not even put a Bowtech in the test because they just didn't come out with something this year that I would like for that application. I still have my SX80 and an SS 34, so if I decide that I like that bow better, I already have one. But to try to compare it up front seems a little foolish. I'll probably throw an Elite in there and a PSE for sure. Give them a try. But that Elite bow is actually really impressive. It honestly is.
Very impressive.
It's a very impressive bow if you eliminate the pick mount and the integrated rest feature that they're missing. It's kind of hitting every cylinder. It's got a good specs. It's got good velocity. I mean, shout out to them to making a bow that's really in my wheelhouse. So I'll definitely give that bow its fair shake.
Tell me why this is. They have a bow that is got a lot of brace height and also a lot of speed. What happened there?
Efficiency and the cam peaking at the right length. So I'd imagine if you set it at different lengths, it probably wouldn't function as good, but they've done a really good job on making it efficient. If you measure it versus brace height versus speed, it probably dang near wins. It's a very impressive bow. And I don't know why, and for the life of me, they're not very popular here. Yeah. Like I don't get people coming in asking for them, and it's not a very fair testament to that company. I may even honestly throw Athens in there because they got some specs that I really like. I haven't decided 100% which ones, and I'll reach out to the companies and let them know these are the ones I want to test. But my guess is those will probably be them. But yeah, that Athens bow is a good weight. It's not fast by any means. It's on the slow side, but it's a high brace height. And for my draw length and my size, I want a high brace height. I want a longer riser. I want a longer overall bow for that type of shooting.
Are you more adversely affected by brace height because of your draw length?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to me?
It's geometry.
Yeah.
So the longer the arrow is on your string, the more torque affects your arrow. So if you're drawing it back at 29 inches and I'm drawing it back at 30 inches, and you have that torque ratio or the reflex measurement, go back to what makes a bow accurate in my YouTube if you want to understand what that I just said and what that means. The more reflex a bow has, the more it torques. Well, the farther it's on the string, the more time it has to torque, which is why people with shorter draw lengths tend to not have as bad of tuning issues, torquing issues, or consistency issues, because it's off the string quicker, right? And that's another belief or philosophy into shooting an arrow faster. It's off the string quicker. You have less time to have it react in its motion, because as soon as you discharge the bow, i.e. it's no longer attached here, torque starts taking an effect. The longer it takes that string to get forward, the more it moves. So that's another reason why a slower setup out of the same bow can be less accurate. It's if you're torquing, you're likely to torque and miss by a greater margin in that scenario.
Yeah.
So,
well, I look forward to seeing what bow you're going to use, because I think whatever bow you pick out is going to be a really good long axle-to-axle bow for a lot of people.
And I'll have another bow that I hunt with as well that's short.
Yeah.
I will for sure. And I do tree stand hunting, whitetail hunting, ground blind hunting. I'll use a shorter bow. Guaranteed I will, because it's way more versatile in that scenario. It's hard to beat. But for the other stuff, I'll be more anal on the longer bow config, because I need that bow to perform no matter what. I just need it to perform. It's super important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm shooting it farther away in situations where accuracy is a little more critical. And 40 yards and in tree stand deer setup isn't nearly as important. It's not to say it's not important, but you can get away with a lot more on shorter distance. So shorter axle-to-axle bow, a little more compact, easier to get around an angle or just shoot quick.
Dispersion in group size gets amplified at distance.
Yeah, that was a good fancy way of saying it.
Yeah. Was that fancy?
Yeah, I'd like to say that was fancy.
All right. Give me a little gold star next to my name for
today.
today.
A little college educated.
Yeah. I did go to college.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
All that tuition was for something.
I was gonna say, what was college like for you?
Well, I went to a small state school in Michigan called Ferris State University.
Yeah.
And Ferris State University is about an hour north of Grand Rapids in Michigan, a town called Big Rapids. Now, it's a small state school, but it's got a few interesting programs that are really well renowned. One of them was mine, professional golf management. They also have music industry management. They also have professional tennis management. They also have a really good pharmacy program and a really good optometry program. So I always thought from a school perspective, it was kind of a neat school because from a state school, that wasn't like a big deal to get into. There were some really good programs. My golf management program, which is basically, to explain it simply, is a business degree that every business major would have. But on top of that, we took no semesters off, and then we went out and did internships, which is code for working at a golf course. So I went 4.5 years straight through with school and 15 months of internships during that time, which allowed me to travel the country a little bit, get to see and sample places I wanted to live, and that's part of what drew me out west. So college was really fun. It was a little imbalanced, the male to female ratio, when I first got there.
Oh, yeah?
Probably 65 male, 35 female.
I was going to say Sausage Fest?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Not nearly as bad as Michigan Tech University. And for anyone who knows, Michigan Tech University is a great engineering school that's like 90% dudes. And I had a lot of friends who went there. It was rough pickings, unless you're like...
It's probably pretty hard.
Yeah. So
imagine the girls in that school probably walking around pretty tall, pretty like, Luke, check out my shit don't stink.
Yeah.
Woo, look at me.
So maybe like 65-35 when I started, but by the time I graduated, it was closer to 50-50, and it was a pretty fair ratio. And also, we had the Muskegon River that went through town, and that river was like famous for college kids floating in on rafts. So the final
party river.
Yeah, the final place I lived, we could dump in tubes from where we lived and then float the river for a couple miles and then catch a cab back. So I had a great fan.
So what you're saying is you weren't super productive when you lived there.
No, I always went to class. That was one thing I did. But I had fun. We had a lot of fun. And it was a cool college experience for sure. I always look back on that time with like a lot of fondness. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so you don't feel like it was a waste.
Yeah, good group of friends. It was interesting because as like freshmen, I would say my friend group would have been considered like, keep in mind this isn't a golf management program.
Right.
My friend group would have been considered like the rebels or whatever. Like
I could see that.
People doing, I don't know, whatever you want to say. Well, you know, people who weren't like country club kids or whatever. And of my friend group, a few of them got in trouble senior year in the Great Shit Fest of 2011.
You care to elaborate on the Great Shit Fest of 2011?
I do, yeah.
Oh,
so in the PGA, you have to go through 3 checkpoints.
Okay.
Checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3.
Yeah.
And then you can graduate, or as you take your next job, become a Class A member of the PGA of America. And checkpoint 1 is very difficult. And difficult in a way that, I mean, takes up a lot of busy work. Like, it's hundreds of hours of busy work to get through level 1. And then you do some tests, you move forward. It gets progressively less hard. Level 3 is basically a formality. You just have to do, say, like 6 to 12 hours of book work, or at the time, that's what it was, and then pass your tests, and it was like sending you off, like, boom, stamp of approval, go get your job, you're a PGA member. And a few friends chose to copy and paste some work into their workbooks.
Oh, plagiarism.
Yeah. And they
For
all
those of you that don't know, it's plagiarism is when you pawn off someone else's work as your own, or you don't cite your research when you pot off the answer. So if you're ever using somebody else's knowledge to give it to the world and it's from someone else, you need to acknowledge that it's from someone else. There are consequences for that behavior. Okay, continue.
Yes. So these friends, good people, made a poor decision, took a shortcut, and they all got in trouble, really. So, and what that meant was they couldn't graduate with us as PGA members. They probably still could have pursued PGA membership, but I think these all are people who probably would have washed out anyway.
How close were you to participating in this?
I wasn't.
No, not even close?
No. I was always always good about doing my homework. So these guys didn't get to graduate with us, which was a bummer because we went through 4.5 years of shit together, and that stunk. But all of these guys continued on to have successful careers. What I meant to say by that in the beginning was the rebels, the few of us, are like the few who have really good jobs in the golf industry now.
You don't say.
So
rebels, what's
if you feel like you might not fit in the mold, that's okay. Oftentimes people that don't fit in the mold are the people that
are
do
exceptional,
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So
the nerds inherit the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, and I'll take that. I was into different things, and I guess I was known amongst pretty much everyone in school, but I just was more drawn towards nerdy stuff. I just was. I don't know why. I always liked it, and somehow I managed to skirt it without getting, too bullied or whatnot. But yeah, it's the people that are kind of the most unique do tend to do the most unique stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. So, and my college best friend Tyler, I met him in my freshman year. We hit it off. We were both like from small towns, both into outdoor stuff, fishing, hunting, whatever. Tyler now just took a job as a general manager of a great private establishment in Nebraska, like very prestigious job for our work. It's a very small pool of those kinds of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And at our age, that's very rare. So, it's cool to see Tyler have so much success in his career. And, a lot of my friends, as I look back now, I watch a lot of them are doing cool stuff. So I just think, man, if you feel like you march to the beat of your own drum, man, that's probably could turn out to be a good thing.
Yeah, screw what everybody else says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some positives to that for sure.
Yeah. So I had a great college. Michigan's cool. Michigan has a lot of bow hunters. A lot of times when we talk about this podcast, people don't know I'm from Michigan. I grew up in Upper Michigan, but I'll get a lot of people in my DMs like, hey, love what you guys are doing. Michigan's got a lot of strong sportsmen and women. So does Pennsylvania. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I always get a little enamored that these things on the internet can reach so far.
It's surprising, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't think, like, why, how did they find that?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But yeah, it's amazing how far it goes, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
You forget that it's just as easy for my neighbor to watch it as it is for somebody in Australia.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Which is wild.
It's wild. Yeah. And how it ends up in their feed or their connection, to it is pretty bizarre, unique, and exciting. Honestly, it's cool.
It's really exciting.
You can actually make an impact.
Yeah.
Because of outlets like this, which is great.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know who made an impact?
Woo. Depends on what we're talking about, but okay, dude. Surprise me.
Our audience, dude.
Our audience made an impact.
Yeah, they crushed Karen.
Yeah, Karen's gone.
Yeah.
See you, bitch.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten on that operation yet, basically we got a nasty review on the Apple podcast side and asked you guys to go flood the reviews with your reviews and say more nasty things about us. No, just leaving a review wherever you are helps us out. And if you want to go just kind of kick her while she's down a little bit, drop us a review. That stuff, it really helps us, man. We've seen this last month has been our best month, and it feels like we have real momentum, which gets me excited every week to come back and try to put together a great show.
So you're not ready to quit yet?
No.
Well, we have
in a blaze of glory. If I ever go down, it'll be in a
blaze of glory, baby.
I've always wanted to do a blaze of glory.
Yeah, I can see that. We'll have to film something epic for that.
Yeah.
256 reviews on Spotify as of right now. Way to go, folks. That's awesome. For some reason, and I don't know if maybe somebody else can do this, I think most people must be listening on Spotify because we have way more reviews on Spotify than we do Apple, because we were doing them on both at the same time, weren't we?
Yeah.
Or did we start on Spotify?
No, same time.
Yeah, so.
And it's 50-50 whether people listen on one side or the other.
Yeah, but the reviews that we had on Apple, there were so few in relation to Spotify. I'm looking it up right now just to see. Let's see. Josh and Tim. Oh, hush.
It's particularly important that we get this fire going today because it is actually another...
It's actually cold.
It's actually another cool day here. And this fire is our source of heat in the man cave here.
Yeah, I am going to put in a ductless heat pump system, I think, and one will be in here so we can cut the curb just a little bit.
Oh, no.
Hey, whoa, we're up to 145 reviews on Apple now.
Yeah, they're crushing.
You guys are crushing. That's awesome.
Yeah, they are. It is awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's fantastic. We had like next to none, so when somebody leaves one that's bad, it makes you look bad. Yeah, but we're back to 5s. We're 5s on both, so that's awesome. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that kind of does help enforce to us that you like what we're doing, so we'll kind of keep doing it the way we're doing it. There hasn't ever been too much of a structure, organization, or plan to this. I mean, maybe a little. Tim's more focused on the aesthetics of what we're doing. It's like, hey, that chair's moved. It's 2 inches off. I'm like, oh, geez, sorry. This is still my house, It does get used a little bit, but it's just us talking about random stuff. And it's neat that you guys really like it. So we'll definitely keep doing it. And we'll still have some guests and whatnot here and again. I'm trying to get Joel to come back and explain what happened to me from his perspective.
Do a therapy session live.
Yeah, do a therapy session. Yeah, a legit therapy session. In fact, maybe we'll actually change the format and I'll lay on a couch and he can talk to me about it.
Yeah.
In fact, he actually said, of course.
Oh,
so,
nice.
We'll schedule that and see if he can.
Yeah.
Maybe my faulting or my shortcomings can be worked through to the public so everybody can see that. So if you're struggling with the same thing or have struggled with the same thing, there's better solutions for it. Brought to you by Joel Turner.
Yeah.
Who is the mental wizard.
Well, what you were describing is I want to hear the answer to too, because what I feel is similar to what you feel, in where if a shot's not breaking, I can push and pull harder, but then my float also increases. So it makes it harder to commit to that shot.
Well, I think he's got me convinced after, like, I talked to him about it for like a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I waited like a week and a half to go by. The message him say, hey,
Let
when you have time,
in.
I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes and he hits me up and I'm like, hey. So this is the first time in my life I really feel like I actually need to talk to you. I got embarrassed mentally. Yeah. Like I've never done that ever. Mm-hmm. But I think he's got me really convinced that I have to isolate finger movement and stop pulling to rotate. Yeah, because just
now
everything he said about it made a whole ton of sense. And mentally, like, at no point did I freak out.
Right.
I never reacted. Right. So the target panic, of your trigger movement or whatnot never happened.
Yeah.
And if it was going, if I had that in my head, it would have happened because I was really struggling in that moment badly. So I think it reinforces that maybe I can just squeeze the trigger on finger movement.
I've talked with Joel about that in maybe another form many years ago, but he kind of echoed a similar sentiment where, pressure in the bow can also create more erratic pin movement. So I'm curious to hear what the verdict of that is. And I wonder a little bit because that's always been your preferred method to fire the bow, right?
So yeah, I've always rotated the release.
Yeah,
I have. Now, here, you want to pull that off there. It's going to start making noise. But yeah, I've always rotated the release, but not thinking about it in that fashion. It's just I would keep pulling, and allow the natural movement of my body because I learned on a hinge originally the right movement points. Like I had a buddy of mine that worked with the physical positions of, okay, this was this, and then that's kind of what I have taught ever since then. Is that's why your elbow needs to be here, that's why your shoulder needs to be here, that's why your arm needs to be there. So when you're pulling through the right motion that makes the release turn without functionally thinking about squeeze these fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Pull this one, weaken that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right, when you're digit manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Not pulling. And if you're going to do that, like if you're going to cause digit manipulation, it actually makes a whole crap ton of sense to me because this digit works independently of these digits.
Yes.
So if you're going to squeeze something, it should be this one.
And I've heard Joel say something like, you only have to move that the head of the release like a millimeter to change, like to be outside the X or the 10 or something like that.
It does, and it's absolutely right. The consequence to most of that is most people can't do that mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Like they eventually start popping a trigger,
Mm-hmm.
right? They start to shake a little bit and then don't identify that they're shaking and keep working their way through the shot and do it. And I think because, especially having gone through that and I still didn't react, I think I can.
I think you can too.
I was thinking that those 3 days, I was like, maybe I should just squeeze a trigger because I don't think it's going to bother me at this point in my life.
What I wondered was because of, your evolution with the sport of archery and much of your time with the competitive, maybe indoor, whatever you had going at the time, was with bows that were also more supportive of that style of shooting because they had really sloppy back walls or whatever.
you had to pull hard into the back wall to get it to be consistent, because it was so soft. Like you could, if you pulled 15 pounds versus 20 pounds, your length was different.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have these really rigid hard back walls. So my learning was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
And I could see how the evolution of equipment could support maybe an alternative shooting style a little more. And if you, in my observation, just watching like Lancaster and Vegas over the course of the past couple weeks, which we probably need to move forward from eventually because we talked about it the last couple podcasts. But
the trauma is real.
a lot of different styles shoot well, especially in those formats. Like some people have very little pressure in the system. Some people have probably more people using buttons than hinges.
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of commonalities when it comes to shoulder structure. I think that's something that's very important if you want to hold your bow steady continually, is having good shoulder structure, which is something that you preach on, and good anatomy in your shoulder structure. But man, there's a lot of different ways to do it, which is part of what I think is a little bit intriguing about archery, is like it can be a little bit of a dealer's choice based on, choose your own path.
Yeah. Well, I still think you have to have a decent amount of pressure in it, but you don't have to increase your pressure as you're trying to fire the bow. I think you can pull into it firm, which actually has me leaning back towards shooting the low let-off module of the Title because it forces you to pull a lot. So when I'd get the bow back, it easily, like I didn't have to increase my pressure to get to 21, 22, 23 pounds of holding weight. It already had that.
Yeah.
Like it says it's 70%. It's got to be more than that because it seemed like a lot. And I'm kind of anxious to try that and then just squeeze a trigger with that on it. So I told myself I was going to give myself a week, which it has been a week, but it's been a busy week so far, and I haven't picked up my bow yet. But I will pick it up this week and start shooting it again. Especially now that I've need to make a video on the target bars that I just came out with. Still haven't even done that.
Yeah. Talk about those on here.
We.
What makes a good target bar?
Stiff AF, if you ask me. Some people will argue that a flexible bar is actually a good thing, but I don't think it is. I think the stiffer it is, the less it flexes when you're holding weight away from your bow hand, so the less you move. The vibration after the shot isn't really critical. It doesn't really matter too much. It's just while you're sitting there and holding it, is it flexing? Because you take this 30, 33-inch long piece of carbon and then put 10, 15 ounces on the end of it, 20 ounces on the end of it. I mean, it'll flex just like if you move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I tried a couple different versions of it and dealt with my supplier who makes my carbon, and they ended up making me the thickest walled carbon I've ever seen in my life. It's a 1/2-inch diameter rod with like a VAP, a 166 size arrow internal hole in it, and that's it. So it's stiff. It's a little heavier for a carbon rod, but it's still not ridiculously bad. And it's just stiff. Like I think I've said stiff like 7 times, but you can't flex it. It's amazingly stiff and rigid.
Yeah.
And I was trying to come out with a price point that's more consumer friendly, because most of the stuff that you see out on the market today, it's like good quality, is expensive. It's $300, and I wanted to be under $200, and that's where I ended up. So I think we're depending on length, like 130 to 170, depending on what you pick.
I think on the website I looked the other day, a 33-inch bar is 179. Yeah,
which is not going to be a common seller. Our most common one we sold already is 27, and I literally just put them on the website so people would stop asking when they're available.
Yeah.
But I don't even think I've taken a picture. Like, there's not a picture on the
No,
website.
I'm
I think
gonna
we've
get
sold
one.
15 of them or something already. But it's a nice price product. It's not ridiculous, and it works very well.
Yeah, I wish I could give. I wish I had experience with more target bars, so I could be like, oh, this one's more unique than the other, or offer some perspective. But I only came from an Excel fancy bar.
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of it?
Oh goodness, I'm sorry, Excel.
Anyway, it's one of Excel's fancy bars. Like, I think it was in 30
Acclaim?
inches.
It's Acclaim.
Yeah,
It's
I
Acclaim.
think that's it.
Yeah, Acclaim.
And then
we stock those.
We immediately slapped yours on. So going from one to the other, they felt similar to me. Didn't feel like one was. What I would describe actually is the Excel bar seemed to like a longer, slower waver of dissipation,
Mm-hmm.
and your bar seemed like it vibrates a little, then it goes away.
Yeah.
But
Well, the stiffer it is, typically the faster it'll dissipate.
fast, yeah, that makes sense to me hearing it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they feel very similar, and I'm in a phase where I'm trying to dial in my bar weight because I got the new. We haven't talked about the new bow in here. I got the new bow, PSE Supra X, which has been a very fun bow to shoot. I got a couple hundred arrows through it, and I just want to say that it's the most stable bow I've owned, and it's very smooth to draw. But that's a little harder for me to judge because it's 10 pounds less than I'm used to.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But it's very smooth to draw and stable. But I'm just kind of dialing it in. And I've only shot a couple rounds of Vegas, and I tied my PR with one of them. So I'm really excited about the upside of that bow. And I think it'll be the one that, it will be the one that travels with me when we go to these local 3D shoots. And
Sure.
I'm trying to take you down.
You going that route again? Oh, guy shows 1 inch of vulnerability, and all of a sudden somebody gets confident.
Yeah. I got some really fun formats I'm excited to shoot, and we'll do some team stuff, and it'll be fun, focused on fun. But yeah, man, I've been a big fan of that bow, and I just think 60-pound bow, smooth, something I'm going to send a lot of arrows through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes sense to me why I would shoot that bow a lot, you know?
Yeah. No, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. TAC San Antonio.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going. And we're
That's
going
happening.
with Brandon and Bow Disciples, Jason, and
James.
Sorry, James.
James
Sorry,
Visser.
Jason. My bad. And Troy Fowler, the Ranch Fairy, right?
AKA the Ranch Fairy.
AKA. So should we? I didn't ever bring this up, but I was like, should we like try to do a multiple video that's on everybody's channels? What do you think about that?
Well, that could be cool. I think,
Kind of force everybody to watch everybody else's channel.
yeah. Yeah, we'll probably have to brainstorm something like that. In my head, I figured, we'd do something for my channel for a few targets, and then maybe do something for one of you guys' channel for a few targets, and just direct some cross traffic that way. But yeah, we could totally do something that is longer running. The little bit of the risk with that is if, I compare this to golf, is like if the match falls apart, whoever ends up being the last video loses some engagement, because like maybe you're running away with it, or if the lead separates, that kind of thing.
That's true.
But
I didn't think of that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be fun. I think it would be positive, and I think it would be good for everybody
yeah,
if we did it that way. We literally, this is the first we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to the other guys about it, but that's 5 different YouTube channels on one target at the same time.
yeah,
I am psyched to watch Troy shoot distance.
I am too.
I am absolutely psyched to watch that.
I am too. It's
Yeah.
going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I think upon leaving that event, he will probably be like, geez Louise, there is some stuff that this Mohawk guy in Washington makes sense talking about, because so much of the things that you will describe and lean on are more impactful as you get downrange,
Yeah.
as you group downrange, as you want your arrows to fly really good downrange, as you want your bow super tuned. I know the first time I went to a big 3D event like that and I started crashing carbon into arrows, it's just like, it's the smack in the face you didn't know you needed till you got it.
Sure.
You know, because everyone's a backyard hero, right?
Yeah.
Everyone shoots good groups in their backyard, and maybe they don't have comparison to compare it against. But when you go and you shoot a 20-degree angle off an 80-yard shot, and you huck it into the rocks because your third axis wasn't on, or maybe you whatever, could be a lot of reasons it happens. It's just a wake up call. It's a reason to be like, hey, maybe I should shoot my bow 12 months out of the year. Maybe I should go shoot in my third axis. Maybe I should. Whatever. A lot of things.
The small things make a big difference when you back up.
Yeah, they do.
Simple as that. And most people never get to see them. So it's a great exposure thing. Maybe I got an idea. Maybe we could each have our own game.
That's kind of what I figured. Yeah.
Right. You pick your format for a portion.
Yep.
And then I pick my format, and Brandon picks his format.
Yep.
And,
exactly.
James picks his format, and Ranch Frey will make us shoot through concrete walls.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured something like that. Something fun, something easy to watch, something that's so easy to follow the score. Yeah, just not complicated, fun.
Yeah. Just forewarn you, James probably gonna make you drink beer. I'm telling you.
I don't mix beer and arrows.
Well, then you're DQ'd. You can take a 0 on each one of his.
Yeah. But post round, I do like myself a refresco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post round.
A refreshamente. Yeah. Which is always part of the learning curve for day 2, right?
Yeah. How many you do have in between day 1 and day 2 is probably wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody made that mistake this last time.
No.
But that first time, geez, that was bad.
Every time I went, day 2 was a bear.
Yeah, there was.
Because they always send us up the lifts early too, just to like get out of the way or whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to get you up at like 5:30, 5:45, and send you up the hill, which is early. I mean, you gotta with this. This doesn't just happen, right? So I gotta get up. I gotta take a shower. I gotta let my hair dry to be able to do that. So I gotta get up like an hour before whenever we're gonna get there at least. So you hope you're close to wherever it is.
No lenses though, right?
That's fine. I don't care. I'll use a complete hunting bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't afraid.
Well, I know you're not.
Yeah.
Who knows what McDonald could show up with or whatever, but no lenses. I mean, the rest of it's all pretty standardized. No one's going to show up with a 40-inch bow. Yeah. Dude, so 3D arrows, I've just, for some reason, my brain keeps going there. 23s, 27, 6.5 mils. What do you think? Particularly for our local stuff where it's like we're shooting mostly 20 to 50 yards.
Okay, what do I think? Well, in my world, I typically want what I think is the most accurate projectile.
Yep.
Right? Accuracy over anything in my world.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to be in an environment where you could have good weather, or it could be really windy.
Yep.
Or it could be really rainy. And the larger your arrow, the more it'll be affected by wind, and the more it'll be affected by rain because there's more surface area, right? Pressure, temperature, it takes a bigger effect on a larger arrow. So myself, I want to use a really light, small diameter arrow. And I want to use a really light, small diameter arrow for a couple of reasons. One, I can make something with more FOC at the same weight. Once again, the faster it gets off your string, the less your mistakes are affected, right? So the lighter arrow's getting off your string faster. So I would probably gravitate towards like a 3D HV or RIP XV in a 204 size. If you want to go that route, if you want to go 166, I'd probably pick an X Impact. And I'd probably pick an X Impact from Black Eagle because it's the lightest GPI 166 size arrow. I would not, I'm sorry if I'm going to be a bear about this, but I wouldn't shoot anything that had aluminum in it.
Oh,
especially in 3Ds and stuff. Like you bend them. You just do, pulling them out of targets.
It happens.
Yeah, or somebody glances off your arrow, the sidewall structure is more likely to cave in. In that scenario, at least with a carbon arrow, it'll break.
Mm-hmm.
It won't stay together, but have a big old ding in the side of it that maybe you don't catch and then you shoot it again. So when it comes to that kind of shooting, I want a pure carbon arrow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a carbon aluminum. I don't have an issue with hunting with a carbon aluminum because you're not reshooting the arrows over and over.
Right.
So like
they're in your quiver.
Your X10 parallels or whatnot, those are great arrows to hunt with. They really are because you're not worried about 7 other arrows smacking it. and pulling it out of the target. You're just hunting with it, and it's very uniform. It's very accurate. It's very consistent, and it's a good weight GPI ratio. So I think that's a great arrow to hunt with. I would not shoot target with it.
Now, let me play devil's advocate. Most people at ASAs are shooting 23s and 27s.
Yes, they are.
And is that because lack of wind and weather, or?
I think the difference there, one, they're trying to hit a line on a 14 or a 12, right? Which most of the formats around here aren't that. You're shooting at a bigger surface, right?
That's true.
Typically, like you're not. If you are counting in a 12, it's in the middle of the target. It's not off-centered, right? So you're still pointing and aiming at the same thing.
That's true. That's a good point.
There'll be instances where a 23 or a 27 may have got you a couple points, but if you had any weather at all, it probably cost you more points. So I'm not opposed to it, and I wouldn't even be opposed with running both if you had two separate sight tapes and could functionally sight in both of them.
I thought a little bit about that, but I just don't want to go too mad scientist.
Well, you're definitely, one of them's not going to be tuned when you shoot it, but it's field points, so it's not that critical. They're still going to strike the target in a given spot, and they're still going to have a given amount of drop, right? So those are all real factors. But to me, you can't get a 23 or a 27 lighter than a 204.
That's true.
You cannot.
But
like nobody makes one.
A 350 23 is 7.8 grains per inch, so that's not heavy.
Yeah, I'm using like a 6.5, dude.
I know. But the difference between 6.3 and 7.8 is 1.3 times 28, so it's 35 grains.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And also, for the skilled archers, I'm not there yet, but wind is something that they could predict, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I
guess I don't know because I haven't done enough with both to compare. But if I were to go to Top Pin and go through the quivers of the people that are doing the shoot off, I would find both. Like I remember some of the good shooters shooting 4 mils. And I remember some of the good shooters shooting fatter stuff.
Well, sure, because that is a not only 12 ring, 14 ring.
Yeah,
it's marked. You have a definite point of aim.
Yes,
which is going to be a slight improvement over an unmarked. Right, you're more likely to hit it. So I would argue that even more in that scenario. Plus, when that tournament's held, there's rarely ever crappy weather. I mean, at the time of year, though. It could be windy, but the time of year typically it's not.
Yeah.
Right. It can happen, but it's in the dead of summer. Normally, you don't run into that in the dead of summer. You will have the possibilities and likelihoods of it. I want to say the time I shot it, there was a portion of it that it was windy and it sucked. But I would think that your ASAs and things of that nature, as opposed to like a TAC or something like that, they're closer distance. You're not shooting as far.
That's true.
So
yeah, if we're talking about TAC, I think TAC's a little bit of a different animal. I was thinking more like Buffalo Ranch here, 20 to 50 yard kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's arguable. Like if you're not going to have some great distance, it might be worthwhile to shoot a larger arrow if you think that you can shoot that well.
Yeah,
and you can point that well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I know the more weight you put in the front of your arrow, typically the better it's going to track towards the target. So by using a lighter GPI arrow, it allows you to put more weight in the front of the arrow and have it weigh the same.
The other hesitation too is like 23s or 27s, if you build them out, are freaking expensive.
They are, and I guarantee you're more likely to go through them.
Yeah, and you're going to bust them up more.
It's really thin wall. It's more likely to break. I mean,
components going to get tattered up or whatever.
Yeah, and when somebody hits the back of your arrow, there's a lot more back of the arrow to hit.
Yes, exactly.
So that's valid.
Yeah, I mean,
too.
if you're shooting a rabbit at 6 yards, and there's usually 2 for that reason, but if one person plugs up the middle, the next person plugs up the middle, like
they don't have a choice but to hit your arrow.
It's just going to ricochet. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you're going to break arrows. So you got that big diameter arrow, it's guaranteed going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
Where small diameter arrow, you might not.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's lots of positives and negatives to it, and I understand why certain ones sell, but
definitely like a Total Archery Challenge arrow.
You'd be foolish to have a big arrow.
Flat flyers.
You need flat flyers and stuff for distance.
Flat flyers.
Yeah, stuff for distance. That's important.
So top flat flyers are like a 3D HV.
Yeah, I mean it's very hard to beat that arrow.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, a 3D HV is the same thing as a RIP XV, but it comes with a knock bushing. So you have a smaller diameter nock. So if someone's going to hit the back end of your arrow, it helps deflect it. So it is their target version of the arrow, where a Rip XV has a regular nock in it because they figure you're hunting with it. There's a good possibility you're putting a lighted nock in it, and you don't want the nock bushing. And it comes with Rip XVs come with inserts, and 3D HVs don't, because they figure you're probably putting a glue-in point in it, so you can buy an arrow without componentry.
I was gonna say, what kind of point, like a glue-in, typically on something like that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, use a glue-in.
Because you save weight.
Yeah, it's not just saving weight; it comes out of the target a lot easier. So if you're shooting an insert, in most instances, the insert's a little bit bigger than the arrow. Now, because I make inserts and componentry, I'd probably put my own insert in it, because it would seem kind of foolish to me not to. But in most instances, you would use a glue-in one-piece point, and I haven't like seen a reason to make my own points, like my own glue-in points.
Yeah, because you're not going to make a better mousetrap, really.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd make one better.
Yeah,
already.
It's pretty straightforward. It's conical.
It is.
It's got they're pretty straightforward.
Somebody in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong, but it just popped in my head. I haven't ever seen a glue-in point with a threaded back, so you could change it later. So all the glue-in points are usually like break-offs. So you've got like 150 grain point that you can break 10 grains off at a whack to get it down to like 100 if you want.
Yeah.
There might be some benefit to making a one-piece glue-in point that's threaded in the back, so you can, if you want to increase weight or decrease weight, you can screw it in, screw it out, change it.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of, well, my points broke off. Now what? There might be something to that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to do that.
The hot glue program is a good program. I've heard things in the past like, oh, use hot glue, there's going to pull out. I shot my hot glued arrows and inserts all year for a year. Didn't have any problems till I shot them into carpet on a 10-degree day. Yeah. And then I pulled out a couple, which is a pretty unique scenario. And pulling out a carpet when it's 10 degrees is not necessarily a good situation, but I was impressed with the hot glue. Is that a brand of hot glue, or is most hot glue similar?
No, that's a brand of hot glue somewhat. So there's a couple different ones out there that are pretty good. We sell a hot glue puck that is
the puck that's like a little bit translucent.
It's orangish, yellowish, and it's flexible. Like when you push on it, you can feel it give a little bit.
Yeah.
Easton's hot glue, I think, is the same hot glue and sticks. And honestly, I think our hot glue is the same as Iron Will's, but he won't tell me where he gets it from. So
top secret.
He's top secret about that. He's real particular, and
he probably imports it. Respect from Brazil or something.
Who knows?
He's probably got like little diamonds crushed up in it or something like that.
That could be. Respect to him, but I think the stuff that we have, that I found, looks the same. Ours isn't from archery, but it looks exactly the same.
Works really well.
It's a bigger quantity. It's a little easier to work with. And I don't lose inserts, but I always avoided hot glue because people can make mistakes when installing hot glue and destroy their arrow. Because whenever you put heat to carbon, it's not like you're not supposed to heat carbon. You can heat the point, you can heat the insert, just don't heat the arrow. And you'd be amazed how many people wouldn't even think twice about it and put fire on their freaking carbon arrow and destroy their arrow. So I always avoided recommending hot glue, but hot glue works great when done correctly. It just is. It's a little more time consuming, but you can take it out later, which is great. But even in the instance of hot gluing a glue-in point, if it's a break off, right? Well, you can't add weight to it after you broke it off.
That's right.
Maybe I do need to make a point.
Yeah, maybe. Let them know.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. A lot of those niche things, who knows how big the market is or whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I think those are interesting points, and I'm still feel like I need a 2-arrow system.
I don't disagree with you.
Now,
if
you're going to tune to an arrow, would you tune to the fat arrow or the skinny arrow?
There's a really good question. I was thinking about that like 5 seconds before you asked me that question. I was like, wonder which one I'd tune it to.
Yeah.
Well, I figure if you're going to use a big arrow, small arrow.
I guess you could lean towards what one you think you're going to shoot more.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's if you're going to shoot a big arrow and a small arrow, figure the majority of the time you're probably going to be able to use the big arrow.
Because to me, it would be like big arrow is the starter.
It's the primary.
And then the skinny arrow is the windy day arrow.
In case of emergency, grab tiny shafts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I probably would build it and tune it to the big arrow, and then have a second indicator needle and a second tape side to do that, and be able to use an additional arrow, as long as you could get it to start in an impact in the straight line,
Or
which you should. No reason you shouldn't.
if you're using a target sight, an archer's mark, you just need a separate set of marks in your archer's mark, right?
Yeah, you'd actually build another profile and put the other one in there, and your starting point and your ending point, and then you're good. Which is the beauty of like the archer's mark. It's awesome. There's so much you can do to that.
Yeah, which I think there's not really none of the program other people use. Archer's mark is the one. I think a lot more people this year are going to be like keyed into it because you talked about it in the past, but after I used it, I'm like, dude, this is a no-brainer for if you're serious about your marks, because your marks are going to change. Like, it's no different than golf. Your marks are going to change with humidity. They're going to change with elevation. They're going to change. Those are the primary two, but maybe the conditions that day could change your marks. And all you have to do is change your marks in the program and it recalculates and you're spot on.
Yeah, and if Precision Cut ever comes out with a mobile version, it'll destroy it.
Yeah.
Because you can put your elevation, your pressure, your temperature in, and that'll take into account those things against your marks. Or if Archer's Mark realizes they probably ought to put that variable in theirs. That would be cool.
Now, don't tell Brandon McDonald, Ranch Ferry, James Visser that it's very likely that I will probably have a sight like that on my boat to go down to Texas with.
So the trick here, and I've thought about this, like, right? So like ones that have like bolt-on sight tapes.
Yes.
If you could just get a sight tape that has that on it and put that on, you could still use like a movable, like a traditional hunting style sight.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but who's got those?
As long as you have the graduated or granulated, whatever scale on it.
Yeah, I don't know what the right verbiage is. It's just whatever I called it.
Yeah, that's what I.
But yeah, that would be. And every TAC I've gone to, I've had an Achieve XP on it. Just like I want to be able to change this on the fly, and I know I can.
And understanding that now, if you have the opportunity to swap your sight back to a hunting site before you go hunting, like I would totally be running one of those things to attack because marks are dynamic, you know.
It is.
And if you get to the point where you can start to shoot groups downrange, you can recognize, hey, I'm at 8,000 feet. Instead of shaving 2 yards, you just change your marks or whatever.
So basically what you're saying is I need to figure out which sites we need to use that are still hunting sites that you can still get that on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a new task to figure out. That shouldn't be too terribly hard.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I'm sure you could use the Ultra Views. I guarantee even if they don't, because they have like bolt-ons, right? With dual indicators. Don't they have bolt-ons?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to look at it. We got one up on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they've got bolt-ons, you can... Somebody's got to make one, or you can have them made that are granulated, or graduated, or whatever, the same equal mark, not different ones. Now, granted, you could also put in the parameters, know which one to change to, and just unbolt one and put the other one on, and still use a mover and not look like you're using a target sight in the hunting world. For that argument,
precisely.
If
you were a person looking at new target sites, the clicky clacky ones, which ones would you consider?
Well, I'm actually going to do a whole breakdown comparative, which one's the nicest one. But the Achieve XP Pro is pretty dope. They had some new features in that.
Achieve XP has been kind of a gold standard.
It's probably the number one, most commonly used one.
Yeah.
Shibuya gets really great reviews from those that own them and love them. But
it's also more expensive, right?
It is, not drastically. I don't think it's drastically more, but their big thing is, unless they changed it, it's metric because it's made in China or one of those countries. But in the past, you've always had to have a set of metric wrenches to tighten or loosen anything on a Shibuya because it was metric.
Yeah.
To me was an immediate nope, not interested because I don't want to have to carry two different sets of wrenches on a site. But those are made really well. There's a new one that we just ordered in that we should have here pretty quick called Bowfinger. And
yeah, I saw their product.
That's what Kyle and Tim
I was wondering if they
using.
were a direct-to-consumer brand or they had...
Nope.
Okay.
They have a dealer base, we are officially a distributor.
You got your grubby little mitts on a pair?
I got $10,000 worth of them coming.
What's your first impression or whatever?
It's tight. It's really tight. It's a really well-made site. And they've made scopes for a while.
It looked good from what I saw.
Yeah, they've made scopes for a while, and they've made some really nice scopes, and we'll have those in as well. But the Bowfinger sight, it might be the best one I've ever seen. But we'll see. I got to play with it. So we got Achieve XP, we got the Shibuya, we got the Bowfinger. The CBE Axis is a good sight. It really is. Michael's been using one for my God, sorry. I think like 6 months, 7 months. He said zero problems with it, which I'm always a little concerned when somebody comes out with a new product. B3's got a new sight this year that looks really nice. The only negative to the B3 is there's no quick movement. Now they make one that's on like a really coarse thread where you turn it and it's moving like 10 yards, 12, 20 yards, 30 yards, like real quick. But there's not a disconnect, slide it down, let go of it, which depending on the type of tournament might matter, might not, what you're using it for. But that they make a unique sight there as well. I think that's most of them. I mean, Sherlock still kind of exists, but you never see them on people's bows, at least not that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably overlooking some. Let me know in the comments which sites I should totally have mentioned, and I'm an idiot because I didn't put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the straight up target ones.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to go to the next class, which is like hunter sites that have the features for these kind of events, what are hunter sites that you would consider?
So it depends on what you're trying to do with it. If you want to have a granulated tape that you can swap in and out, it's going to have to be a flat surface.
Yeah.
Right. So your yardage markers have to be on
not
a
on a
flat
wheel,
surface,
right?
Not on a wheel.
Yeah.
So that eliminates anything that's got a wheel that your tape goes on.
Yeah.
So all your spot hogs are gone. All your HHAs are gone. Your Arxos is gone. Unless you consider swapping the wheel head out on those ones that offer it with a different one, but you're still not putting a granulated on it, I don't think. I'm pretty sure nobody's offered that or makes that. So now we're down to a much smaller list.
Black Gold?
Well, Black Gold doesn't have removable tapes.
Right.
So if you wanted to be able to take it off and put it back on, they don't have that. They're just a stick on. So that would also eliminate Black Gold. So that puts you down to like an Excel landslide or a UltraView. Or CBE, I think you've eliminated everybody else if those are like mandatory requirements. Oh, and Redline. Redline has a removable sight tapes, so there's probably 4, and that's it. So that's gonna make it pretty easy to decide which one you want.
Now, if you wanted to go traditional tape version, let's include what sites those would be. So now you have like Spot Hog in there, Black Gold.
You could do Spot Hog, you could do Black Gold, you could do HHA as well. None of those are getting eliminated in that scenario.
The only pinch you get into in that situation, if you're a person that travels and the conditions are dynamic, is you might end up having to shave yards or add yards. And that can be okay too. You just have to kind of figure it out and keep your math similar because it's going to be a percentage change.
Well, depending on how anal you're going to be about it, the ones that have wheels, as long as they have like a interchangeable wheel, like so they have like a sleeve that goes on for the sight tape that you can pull the whole assembly off and put a different one on. If you had multiples of those and you had just like 2 foot a second variants of each one that you had printed on, then you could swap it out and compensate for the elevation change, temperature change, pressure change, changing your environment.
Now, the way you would do this in golf is, I think, the same way you do in archery is it's going to be some amount of percentage change, which is the percentage is going to be affected more at a longer range than a shorter range. So in golf, say I went to Denver, 5,000 feet, that's typically like 10 or 12%. Let's use 10% for even numbers.
Okay.
So if I hit my driver 300 here, I'm going to anticipate hitting it 330 in Denver.
Okay.
10%. So if I hit my 9-iron 150 here, 10% is going to be 165 in Denver. And I would think it's the same in archery. So if the change is 10%, say from 20...
10%'s a ton.
Yeah, but it's less at 20 than it is at 100, right?
Sure.
Because, and that's the consideration is...
Sure, 20 is going to be 2 yards, 100 is going to be 10 yards.
Yeah, and that's the simple math that you would... If you figure out the percentage change, that would be a simple way for a person to just kind of cut it or whatever.
Sure. Oh, you could always do it that way.
Because it's not like you're not cutting 2 yards all the time because it's less at less distance and more at a greater distance. So that's your little tech tip. Who would have known? Who would have known?
Apparently a golfer would.
The people want you to...
a traveling golfer would know.
The people want you to... They request, man. They're like, hey, you got to get Josh out on the golf course.
Oh, God. It's not going to go well.
So maybe when we launch my golf channel, we'll do the Breaking 100 series with Josh or whatever.
I told you I'd be your golf dummy if you do your channel that way. like you can see, here's what not to do.
It'd be fun.
I guess it's only fair, right?
It is fair. I think you would find that there are interesting parallels and some differences. And man, that rabbit hole can be deep too.
Well, I've avoided it on purpose, not because I don't.
Same
think
reason
it would
Rogan's
be fun.
avoided it, probably.
Yeah, like you turn into obsessive with it and whatnot, which he's talked about a lot. Like
you give an obsessive personality a technical sport, it can consume them.
Yeah, and I've already got something like that, right? So I don't probably need 2 of them in my life, but I will if you want. It's only fair.
And you just have to
let me be the guy on the other end of it for a change.
Or like what I've grown to do now is like with pickleball, I can approach pickleball with like recreational enthusiasm. You know,
there you go.
So if you can find that recreational enthusiasm, who knows? Maybe it'll be a thing. Anyway, guys, that's the pod. That's all we got. You got anything you want to close with?
Yeah. Keep the reviews coming. It's awesome. It's amazing how many of those we got and how quick they came. So I really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, it does mean a lot. Thank you.
We really do. Can't say thank you enough.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
We'll catch you back.
Bye.